Occupation, a term that has gained relevance in Spain in recent years, refers to the act of taking possession of a property without the consent of the rightful owner. This phenomenon has captured the attention of Spanish society due to its impact on housing security and community living. According to the Ministry of Interior, in 2022, a total of 16,726 people reported that their homes had been illegally occupied by unwanted tenants in Spain, which represents a 3.2% decrease from the previous year. It is important to note that the Ministry of Interior's figures only include reports of squatting or home invasion and do not take into account another form of occupation, known as inquioccupation, which refers to those individuals who enter a property with a lease agreement and stop paying rent voluntarily. Today, the main objective of our extraordinary walk is to educate and inform the public about occupation in Spain. Additionally, at the end of the video, we will hear several real testimonies that will help us understand this issue. It is crucial to comprehend its causes, consequences, and the measures being taken to address this social challenge. Squatting not only affects homeowners but also has legal, economic, and social implications that impact society as a whole. The history of squatting in Spain dates back to ancient times, with deep-rooted historical origins. In the past, the occupation of lands or properties was often associated with territorial conflicts, agrarian disputes, or social movements. Throughout the 20th century, squatting remained a relatively isolated phenomenon, primarily linked to rural and agrarian conflicts. However, there began to emerge cases of squatting in urban areas due to the lack of affordable housing and economic difficulties faced by some families. Nevertheless, in recent decades, the phenomenon of squatting has evolved and taken on new dimensions. During the economic crisis that affected Spain in the early 21st century, there was a significant increase in housing squatting cases, largely driven by the lack of access to affordable housing and the economic hardships experienced by many families. This crisis, coupled with the preceding real estate bubble, contributed to making squatting a more relevant and pressing issue in Spanish society. In recent years, squatting has continued to be a matter of concern in Spain and has given rise to political debates, legal reforms, and efforts by civil society to address the problem. Article 245 of the Spanish Penal Code regulates the crime of illegal occupation. This crime pertains to the unlawful occupation of a dwelling or immovable property without the consent of the rightful owner. Article 245 distinguishes between occupation carried out with violence or intimidation towards individuals and occupation without violence. In the first case, penalties vary depending on the level of violence used, and there is a prison sentence of 1 to 2 years. The prison sentence is determined by considering the gains obtained and the harm caused. In the second case, it involves the occupation of someone else's immovable property, dwelling, or building without the proper authorization, provided it does not constitute a dwelling. This also includes those who remain on the property against the owner's will. In these cases, the prescribed penalty is a fine ranging from 3 to 6 months. When an illegal occupation of a dwelling occurs, it is understandable that the rightful occupants would want to reclaim their property. However, it's important to note that the Spanish Constitution guarantees the inviolability of the home, as established in Article 18.2. This means that nobody can enter a dwelling without a judicial authorization, unless a crime is being committed at the moment. Due to this constitutional protection, the police cannot enter a dwelling and carry out an eviction without a court order, as this would be contrary to the law. The only exception is when the crime of occupation is happening at that very moment. For instance, if someone arrives home and discovers that someone is attempting to force their way in illegally and then sees the authorities nearby, they have the right to immediately inform them about the situation. In this case, the authorities can intervene to apprehend the perpetrators and protect the rights of the rightful owner. The ability of the police to intervene in cases of illegal occupation in Spain is quite limited and depends on the specific laws and regulations of each autonomous community, as regulations can vary from one region to another. In some autonomous communities, such as Catalonia, laws have been enacted that allow the police to intervene in cases of illegal occupation if it has not been 48 hours since the occupation was detected. In most cases of illegal occupation, a judicial process will be necessary. The economic crisis that hit Spain from 2008 onwards left many people unemployed or with reduced incomes. The difficulty of paying rent or the mortgage is the reason some people turn to squatting, justifying it as a desperate solution to have a roof over their heads. Furthermore, the real estate bubble that preceded the crisis left a surplus of vacant properties in the hands of investors and banks. Squatting often targets these properties that remain unoccupied for long periods, and those who occupy them often argue that they are vacant properties or owned by banks. In this regard, another issue exacerbating the situation is the existence of social movements and collectives that promote squatting as a form of protest against real estate speculation and the lack of affordable housing. Some squatters defend their actions as a struggle for the right to housing. But what does the law say? In Spain, faced with the reality of people coming home to find that the locks have been changed by illegal occupants, preventing them from entering, Law May 2018 was passed to address this problem. This law amended the civil procedure law and aimed to streamline the legal process so that victims of illegal squatting can reclaim their properties. As mentioned earlier, the regulation of squatting in Spain is complex and varies by autonomous community. This lack of uniformity can make the effective application of the law across the country challenging, and legal loopholes or the lack of effective law enforcement can encourage illegal squatting, as squatters may feel they can act with impunity. So what solutions are there apart from a legal process? In response to this situation, private companies dedicated to desokupation, de-squatting, have emerged in Spain, with one of the most well-known being DESOKUPA. This company defines itself on its website as specialists in reclaiming properties through mediation with squatters, tenants, precarious occupants, community associations, shared flats, and more, with their in-house legal department. The founder, Daniel Esteve, states on the website that since they started in 2016, they have successfully carried out over 7,000 de-squattings and are the only company in the sector recommended by the state's law enforcement agencies. Furthermore, DESOKUPA claims that its protocol is always tailored to each specific case and decided by consensus of experts, all within the strictest legality. To ensure this, they assert that they have a lawyer present in all negotiations to ensure that no laws are violated. The company provides services contracted by the legitimate owner of a property that has been illegally occupied, with the goal of regaining possession of the property. They conduct a detailed review of the case, including a thorough examination of the illegal occupants, taking into consideration factors such as the presence of minors, which could complicate the eviction process. One of the first actions the company takes is to attempt mediation in the situation. This means they try to reach an agreement with the illegal occupants for them to voluntarily vacate the property. In many cases, this agreement involves offering a sum of money in exchange for vacating the property. Another strategy is access control. This means the company has authorized personnel continuously stationed at the entrance of the occupied property. The purpose of this ongoing presence is to exert pressure on the illegal occupants to leave. It's important to highlight that these actions are carried out within the legal framework and respect the rights of all parties involved. The company focuses on helping property owners effectively address the illegal occupation of their properties, often seeking to resolve the issue without resorting to lengthier and costlier legal processes. According to the company DESOKUPA on its website, DESOKUPA operates throughout the national territory, both in the mainland and the Balearic and Canary Islands, but the highest number of squatting incidents occur in Madrid and Barcelona, followed by coastal areas, with particular prominence in Malaga, Valencia, Alicante, and Murcia. In Spain, there are diverse opinions regarding illegal squatting. This is why we present the following real testimonies. This testimony was extracted from an interview on the Spanish television channel La Sexta. A squatter states,
"I have 7 children living with me, and we found ourselves in a situation where we had to squat. They opened the door for us, and I had to pay 600 euros. He said it was a bank-owned property, and I entered under that condition. When the owner of the property came, my world came crashing down."
Although the situation is reported, the squatter mentions that she hopes to leave before the trial arrives, but also mentions her intention to squat again when that happens. Next, we will see the testimony of an affected family. On February 23, 2023, through the Spanish newspaper El Mundo on its website, we learn about the case of a family affected by a luxury squatter according to the property owner. The woman from the family states,
He has an Audi A3 and a housekeeper. My husband is American. There's no squatting there. When he tells his family what we are going through, they always say, if it's your property, how can't you reclaim it? You live in a communist country.
The woman had purchased a house in Spain in 2014, but in 2018 decided to leave her job as a teacher in Spain to teach in the United States as part of the visiting teacher program, renting her house while she was away. The woman says,
I advertised it on Idealista. First, I had a couple, then students, and so on until July 2021 when the lady entered who doesn't want to leave my house.
Finally, we will examine a testimony regarding the impact of illegal squatting on neighbors. Illegal squatting of homes not only affects property owners whose homes are occupied but also has a negative impact on neighbors living nearby. According to an article published on June 28, 2023 by Libre Mercado on its website, it features the testimony of a neighbor who is the sole owner of the building where she lives and has been fighting against the illegal squatting of her entire block for 4 years. Although the illegal occupants of the house located directly above the woman narrating the story have finally left, upon entering the illegal occupant's home, the person encountered an unpleasant surprise. The house was in a deplorable state, with pounds of trash scattered everywhere, spoiled food, and an infestation of pests that included rats, cockroaches, and fleas. Additionally, there were 5 abandoned cats. The various illegal occupants who have been in the property have caused significant destruction, damaging essential elements such as windows, pipes, and air conditioning compressors. The situation reached a point where the person was forced to take drastic measures, such as welding the elevator doors shut to prevent them from being stolen as well. With these real testimonies, we have reached the end of our extraordinary walk today. If you enjoyed it, we invite you to like and subscribe to the channel. Until our next extraordinary walk.